Yes,
Just like mine.
yes,
I was kind of confused.
poor little guy. I'm glad he's okay because
There he is.
Hey there, sorry about that, y'all. I'm always reminded how far it is from here to Rosemary when I
yeah, when you
leave
get in
late.
traffic, yeah.
Okay. Hey Karen, are you ready to go?
Is that?
Alright.
I've been noticing.
Everybody ready? Okay. I hereby call the, what is it, May 5th or 3rd meeting of the Design Review Board to order. And as usual, we will start with minutes, I believe. Does anybody have any observations, comments, or questions about the minutes? Okay, and I believe, do we have just the April 5 minutes? Do we have any other minutes going back further? Not yet, okay. Okay, in that case, do we have a motion for approval of the April 5, 2018 DRB minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Staff, public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item are announcements. Tim, no announcements. All right. That brings us to the items to be heard. First item up is the retail therapy monument sign.
Is the applicant here? Wow, it's loud. He emailed me some information, and I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I didn't have a chance to print it out, so could we push this to the end of the agenda perhaps and come back to it?
Karen? Okay.
If it is pushed to the end, then we'll be okay as long as we don't come back and.
Okay, everybody have to hear that, honor that. It makes it very difficult for the audience's benefit. We have a wonderful software system, but it is inflexible in terms of rearranging the agenda. So we will put that item to the end, which I believe proper parliamentary procedure would be to lay that on the table.
You can take a motion to do a motion on it, but it's really not necessary as long as.
Okay.
Everyone's on the same page,
Yep.
it seems.
Nobody objects? All right. That brings us to item number 2, the McDonald's sign height deviation. Tim Brown.
Yes, thank you. This is a request for a sign height deviation to go from 36 inches to 42 inches at the existing McDonald's in Miramar Beach, which is on 1.18 acres with the future land use of Coastal Center. It's the M logo sign. It's going on the east side of the building. I guess this is the normal size for that sign, but it exceeds what's allowed by 6 inches. So they're asking for a deviation to allow it.
Okay. Do any members of the board have questions of staff? Is the applicant present? Okay. Sir, would you like to come forward and make any comments you'd like to add to the staff?
Yeah, I would. My name is Jason Toole with CPH. Should be up. So I came before you guys in April as well in order to get the sign that it was on the front, which I believe is the south elevation, approved. And so I'll run through this real quick. We're also item number 3 if you don't have any objections, I'll go ahead and just kind of hit both, and then I can be done. And
Okay, everyone good with that? Yes, sir, please proceed.
all right, so this is, I'll just kind of run through what's existing and what's proposed. Now, obviously, I know tonight is just for the signage, but just for your benefit, we will be coming back before you in either June or July with the entire building elevations and development order. So, but just for your benefit to see kind of what's going. So, existing on the east side, we do have a sign right now, so that McDonald's and the M will go away, and it'll be replaced with this. The one that Tim just mentioned is the arch right there in the middle. Also, right below it, it's really hard to see, but there is a small welcome above the door. That's also going to be part of the next item as an additional sign because it still counts as signage. For the existing west elevation, and then we're proposing that. I have another picture in a little bit that'll show you the sign. There's a sign on the west elevation as well, but we'd be proposing to have the play place sign there. Existing north elevation, no signage there, that's just the back. And then the south, like I said before, it had the play place there, and that's what is proposed now. That was what we previously came before you in April, and were able to get approved then. So, like I said, this kind of just more focuses on the signage. So on the west elevation, it'll go from that to the play place, and as noted above that, there's the deviation for an additional sign. The east elevation goes to the M, and like I said, with the welcome sign as well. And then the south, like I said, that was the one that was previously approved at the April 5th DRB. And so really that's it as far as the colors will, now be in line with what's required from the scenic corridor overlay. So if you have any questions, I know I kind of ran through that quickly, but I didn't want to bore you too long since it's not all before you tonight, but I wanted to at least give you an idea of the whole picture. Yeah.
Real quick, just before we go into anything different, can you just run through those last few slides with the comparison of each previous and current proposed sign?
Yeah.
There we go.
So this is currently what's on the west side, and it will now be the play place sign, and so that will be part of agenda item number 3. Then on the east side, again, you have the same sign there, and you'll lose the word McDonald's, you'll keep the M, and then like I said, you'll have the welcome sign right above the door. And you can see the size of it there. It's 8 inches high by 44 inches long. Then on the south, instead of having the play place and the 2 M's on either side of it, it would just have the word McDonald's. And that was it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Are all of the signs, all of the graphics to scale, the sign showing on the building?
On the building, yes, ma'am.
To scale?
Yes.
And apologies if this is repetitious, but so item number 2, the deviation is which of those signs?
It is just the arch. So the arch, as you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, is 42 inches tall.
Okay.
And your code only allows for 36 inches. So that's all that is a part of item number 2.
Okay.
It's on the
And,
east elevation.
and Tim, the actual square footage is compliant, it's just that one dimension?
Yes.
Okay. The overall area is compliant, okay.
And then item number 3, the additional signs are for the sign on the side as well as the welcome sign above.
Okay, so is the request, items 2 and 3, the request for deviations that are before us, does everybody on the board understand the request? All right. Okay, in that case, Madam Attorney, I think procedurally, we handle these one at a time.
That would be the cleanest way to do it. We do 2 separate votes on different agenda items.
Okay, and should we or should we not have a motion on the floor before inviting public input?
You should have a motion and a second on the floor, then open up to the public.
Very good, thank you. Okay, in that case,
Can I ask another? Well,
yes.
this is a question about number 3, not number 2. So should I hold it? Or
Well, I'll let you decide.
I don't care.
Go
Do you
ahead.
feel it's relevant to
Yeah.
the decision for number 2? It may, does it seem like it might be kind of in a way a little bit?
It's not.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
I'll wait.
I can come back
All
up.
okay, thanks, sir.
And it's for staff, actually.
Okay. In that case, the next thing that needs to happen is a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the deviation on the arches. Do we have a second? Going once? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. We're back to square one.
Move to deny.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
No question.
Madam Attorney, can we dispose of questions in the middle of, between a motion and a second?
Typically, what ends up happening is somebody will second it just for discussion purposes.
I'll do that.
only.
Okay.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Yes,
So
sir.
we're talking about the 42-inch high logo right now?
Correct.
Do they make that logo in a 36-inch high, or is this just a standard press it out, throw it out the back door logo?
Yeah, it's a standard that they have, that they have a national sign company, and so that vendor does all their signage, and so it's pretty much a standard logo that they have, and that's why
They don't have a 36-inch high.
not, I'm not saying they couldn't make one, they don't have one that's a standard that they could just print out or manufacture, I guess I should say.
And the applicant in the application says it's for visibility purposes. It's bigger. As I'm reading it from the application.
Yeah.
So I think it could be 36.
And that's, I mean, that is their standard. Like I said, I'm obviously not going to tell you they couldn't have one
What we find
manufactured.
ourselves in, as I hope you can appreciate, is do we go with McDonald's standard or Walton County standard?
Right.
Well, and I also would say that we've had a lot of folks ask for a bigger sign for visibility purposes.
Yeah.
So
Does this have a
that,
monument sign?
No, it's not a
There's
monument.
not- There is not a monument?
Oh, there is a
There
monument.
will be
Sorry,
one.
sorry. No, sorry. Yeah, but the monument sign is existing right now, so nothing will be changing from that. So.
This sign is back off on the side. It's back off on the east side, closer to the
Correct.
the middle to the back part of the
Correct.
building.
Yeah, if you look at the, yeah, so it's about midway back from the
Midway.
front of the building.
Okay. Any further questions? At this point, I plan to invite public input. All right. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and speak? For the record, there are none indicating interest. So, we are back to the motion to deny. Are we ready for a vote?
And just
No.
for, may I,
Yes.
Chairman? Just for record clarity, this is the motion to deny, so if you want to deny, it would be a yes.
Understood. Thank you. Yeah, that is helpful. Don't ever hesitate to do that.
yeah, it's easy to get off of
Yep.
tracks.
Okay. So, in that case, if there are no further questions or comments,
Okay.
yes, sir. Come
Well, I
forward.
just have, I mean, just curious, if it is going to be a denial, could it be approved as a third, I mean, I guess to avoid coming back before, could it be a motion to approve with that revision, I guess?
Well, I guess, Madam Attorney, we can make as many motions relating to a particular item as we want or not.
Well, let me just clarify, if it was the 36 inches, there wouldn't be a deviation.
That's correct.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it falls
Is that-
under the next item.
I'm sorry?
Falls under the next item as an additional
Additional
sign.
sign.
The next item would not then be an additional sign.
No, yeah.
It would still be.
Yeah.
They're asking for two deviations for this particular sign. One, to make it bigger, but it falls under,
Because the code allows for one sign. That's on the south elevation that you approved last month. So even if you deny it in this one, it still falls under the next one as well.
Yeah.
Wait.
The 36-inch version of the sign could conceivably come back.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's only one sign allowed, they're asking for 3. Is that what I'm hearing? Actually 4 with the welcome. What are we-
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
I did not know that. I thought this was,
And
it was just a
and
size
typically, we
issue.
wouldn't, because everything's more stringent in the scenic corridor, I brought the welcome sign. I mean, typically, if we don't consider it, I mean, it's a sign, but is welcome advertising? Is that advertising McDonald's? You could answer it either way, but because of the strictness of the scenic corridor, I brought it forward as an advertising sign. But you could argue that this isn't advertising for anything, McDonald's or anything else. It just says welcome.
In light of the recent news on what happens if you go into a business, some businesses, and don't buy anything, I would say that the invitation is probably commercial in nature. But that's another discussion.
Okay,
So right
so-
now, all we're considering is the
Let's be clear.
size of the sign.
Yeah, I want to be clear on what we're doing here.
This deviation
Size of
request
it,
is
yeah.
for the size of the sign.
Just the size.
Yes.
So the answer to his question then is what? If,
Oh.
if we approve number 3 or part of number 3, and they're bringing it as a 36-inch, he'll automatically get approval for that sign as a 36-inch high
Well,
sign.
yeah.
Yes, if
Number-
you deny the deviation,
Alright,
his
just trying
only
to get his
alternative, his only alternative is to be compliant with a 36-inch sign.
Yeah.
And then I have a question, and so the sign that they're asking for the deviation to be an extra sign, actually are three.
Well, 3, the
Three.
play place on the west,
Right.
the logo, and the welcome sign on the east.
All right. So just because whether we say yes or no on the size of this sign doesn't mean it's automatically approved
Right.
either way. Okay,
You still have to vote on the next item.
awesome. Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
so we're voting on what, Mr. Chairman?
As I understand it, we are voting on a vote, a yay vote would be to deny the deviation, allowing the sign to be 42 inches in lieu of 36 inches. It does not deny them the right to have the sign. We're dealing with that on the next one. And I would think that it would probably be proper form, were we to vote yay as a board to deny the deviation on item number 2, I would think we probably would want to have the motion for item number 3 be clear about what the size of the signs being approved are. I also wanted to ask, Madam Attorney, is it permissible for us to vote and deny the deviation request, and then under the same item, vote to approve the sign at 36 inches? Or that really is what
Well,
number
they
3
did,
is?
since the
Number three
request
is.
before you is for the deviation, then 36 wouldn't be a deviation, so no,
So
I don't
then
think
we
it
would,
would be
okay, we table
necessary.
it, okay. And then, I guess I'll use the chair's prerogative to mention something, just so it's not a surprise to anyone on the board or the public. Be aware that the item number 4 is an application that the staff has noted a deficiency because the height of a sign in this particular application exceeds 3 feet. Now, I believe the staff's position is probably that that applicant could apply for a deviation, but just be aware that we have another item coming that has got a related issue.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. That brings us back to the motion that has been properly seconded to deny the deviation for item number 2. Everybody clear what we're doing? All right. We ready to vote? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously denying.
Nay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, so we have, how many of us are here? 4-1. Is that sufficient? What did we do?
You voted
That's good.
4-1 to deny the request for deviation as it
Okay.
relates to the sign, size of the sign, the height of the
Needs
sign.
4 votes, so.
4, okay, good. That was what I was asking. Sorry, didn't mean to be obscure. Okay. All right, any staff, any questions or anything on item number 2 before we move to item number 3?
No.
All right, item number 3 is the deviation relating to the number of signs. Staff, you want to make any additional comments? Mr. Applicant, would you like to make any comments?
Just that, I mean, and I think you probably already know, the reason they were asking for the signage deviations, they are coming more compliant with the code as opposed to what they already have there now. So just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. As far as the building colors, also with the signage, there's more signage there now, square footage wise and color wise, than what they would have in the proposed condition. But that's it.
Okay. All right, Spirit, the same thing. I do want to take public input on this, if there is any. So we need a motion and a second if there's no other questions or comments.
So tell me exactly what we're making a motion on, the number of the signs or each sign?
What we are considering, it'll depend on the phrasing of the motion, but what we are considering is whether or not we will allow a deviation to have 3 additional building signs. 2 will be on the east side and 1 will be on the west side. The 4th sign that we've talked about today is facing south on the front of the building, and I believe it's already been approved.
That's correct.
So I think maybe part of the answer to your question might be, and this is part of my question, is we could make a motion, which this is hard to do before discussion, to possibly approve some of the signs and not all. Is that a possibility with the way the item is worded? See what I'm saying?
Or you could, if, I guess, we are allowed the prerogative of a certain amount of discussion before we have a motion, but once we have the motion, we do need to have public input if there's any.
Oh, yes.
And you were asking Heather if,
Yes.
yeah.
The question is whether you could approve some but not all of the additional signs.
That's a question I have.
Do we want to, would we be able to take one sign at a time?
Well, that's not the way the applicant has presented it. So I would think it'd be appropriate, if that was going to be done, it would be to ask the applicant if they have any objections to that approach.
Okay. Mr. Applicant, did you understand that we would consider each of these 3 signs one at a time?
Correct, yeah.
All right.
And,
Any
and
objection?
that being said, if there is any concern, if you felt the need to continue it so that you could explore that and feel that, you do have to have 4 out of 5, well, right now, there has to be a minimum of 4 for anything to pass with this particular board.
And it is, if my understanding, if it's denied, it's not eligible to come back, correct?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Tim?
Or there's a time period?
It would have to be a different request. They can't bring the same request back. So exactly how you would modify it, I don't know, but it would have to be a different request than this one if it gets denied.
Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve for purposes of public information, not advertising, signage on the east side of the building that falls within our standards.
Okay.
And not the other.
I can continue
West.
that and say, and that we decline to accept the west sign because it doesn't mean anything. It's just advertising. It doesn't even repeat McDonald's.
The play place?
Uh-huh.
And you're saying keep the welcome sign?
Uh-huh. As information to the public where you
Right.
walk in the door to eat. As, kind of like a
Right.
directional sign
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's in line with what we've done in the past, and the other sign would not be consistent with what the board has done in the past, because there's not a street over there.
And
It's
you-
a full-size
Neither one of them
sign,
are, really.
and it doesn't even have the name of the business on it. So it's just,
Are you including the golden arches
Mhm.
in the 36-inch as being approved? Okay.
So you've addressed all 3 signs?
Mhm.
All right. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. In that case, I believe now be appropriate to invite comments from the public.
Can I ask a
You-
question of
certainly.
staff
Go ahead.
first? It's
Yes.
just a question of staff, technical in nature, kind of, sort of. Did this building predate the code, or did they have deviations for this additional signage that they currently have today pre-renovation?
Predates the code,
Okay,
and
I'm not sure that matters.
I don't know that it's relevant to this discussion, but when this was approved, drive-throughs were allowed in Coastal Center. The code was since amended and took that out. So it's actually non-conforming, but in terms of the project, they're putting in a dual drive-through. They went to the ZBA and got a variance. So I just want you to understand that it's non-conforming in the Coastal Center land use today, but it wasn't when it was approved. I forget what year it was now, but it was compliant at that time.
Okay, do we have any members of the public that wish to comment? All right, no public comment, so,
I have some comments.
okay.
You want me to go first? So, since we can only discuss this amongst ourselves here in these public meetings, I just want to discuss this a little bit. I have one point I wanted to make, and I did see it in the application for deviation as well as in the applicant's representative's presentation, that I want to say this, both sides of this. The renovation and bringing the building into compliance with Chapter 13 is very, very much appreciated. Let me make that clear. Very, very appreciated. However, from an integrity perspective, I personally, as a member of this board, would never be inclined to approve a deviation on a project, building signage, any type of deviation, because they're making other improvements that bring it into code when it wasn't already. So I don't want that to dilute the appreciation for them doing that. It's very much appreciated, but I just think that it's not in integrity with what we're tasked to do in upholding the code. And it could also, just like in any other deviation request, lead to frustration among others on the corridor who are complying with the code. So I wanted to make that statement. And I also wanted to say that, you know, the welcome sign is so tiny I can't even see it on the darn, the darn thing, much less from the road. I'm not that concerned about that welcome sign. But again, you know, it's approving something for one applicant that others don't have and have even gotten turned down before for similar requests. And so that always concerns me. And then the last comment I'll make is that, you know, there are McDonald's and other similar highly, well-known businesses and not well-known businesses and well-recognized nationally in areas that tend to have strict design codes. And when you drive past them, you can't even tell what they are, but they do really, really well. I mean, people know it. They figure it out, or, you know, however that happens. And signage, in my opinion, is becoming less and less of a factor in business success as technology changes and we become more and more, you know, I guess GPS and smartphone and internet involved. So for those reasons, I struggle with this a lot. So again, I'll say wrap up to repeat myself, because I don't want this to be perceived any differently, that it is no knock on the fact that they are bringing this into compliance. And in my opinion, the building itself looks much better than it did, and so does the proposed signage on the front of the building, and the others too as well. But it's almost like, I want to say, as a general principle, for me, it's like, if you're going to come into compliance, let's just come on all the way into compliance. You know what I mean? Those are my thoughts on it.
My thoughts are essentially the same. The building looks so much better. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that, particularly the front of it. When I saw last month the graphic for what was going to go on the front as opposed to what's there now, it's amazing. It's so different. But I have the same concern that our rules are that this is how it is, and I don't see a reason that there's a special circumstance here to need the additional signs, because you're going to have a monument sign, so people will be able to see that from the road. And even with the welcome sign, as unobtrusive as it is, I don't think there's going to be a problem with people being confused about where to enter the restaurant. So I have concerns also about having the extra sign, particularly when we have in the past denied people having the extra signs.
Would you like me to withdraw my motion?
Or we can vote on it.
We can dispose of it.
Whatever.
If
Would
it-
you like to withdraw? That's the question. If
Well,
you,
then I got a second, I don't want
you can still withdraw it, right?
You need to, the
And
motion and the second will withdraw.
I think the second has to agree.
It's probably not exact, technically correct under the Roberts rules, but I didn't bring my book, so again, as long as we're all on the same page.
Okay, well, I think, given that we are aware that it takes 4 votes to pass, and we've got an indication that we're not going to have 4 votes, if you would like to withdraw your motion, the chair will certainly accept that withdrawal.
to. I withdraw.
Okay.
Is the second withdrawn as well?
I'll withdraw.
Okay, that brings us back to a open floor, I guess. So, is someone else willing to make an alternate motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion to deny the request, so a yay vote would be to deny. And that's been properly seconded. Do we have any comment from the members of the board?
Deny the entire
that.
signs?
Yes, the deviational, the three
All of them.
additional signs. Yeah. So they would have the sign on the front, they had this, the monument sign.
They
Which are
wouldn't have
permitted.
this, they wouldn't have this sign here?
Right.
They would not have that?
Right.
I think that's a necessary sign. But I mean, it's McDonald's to have it on the side like that. It's in a long building. It's not facing Highway 98. It's on the side. And, you know, even as you mentioned, the welcome sign below it is so light. It's not, isn't that correct? Isn't the welcome sign below it very, very light? Just,
It's black material.
is, pardon?
It's black.
It's black?
It's black
Oh,
writing.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's hard to see, but it would be black letters.
Okay.
And, I mean, not if this matters, but just for the opinion, I think obviously they would be acceptable if they were able to just get the M or the welcome. I mean, the M and the welcome, or the M without the welcome. I think they would much prefer that and give up the play place. Like you said, the play place is more of to let people know that there is a play place there, but that's not as important to them, obviously, as getting the M would be.
They have, you have the arches on the front building sign and the monument as well, is that correct?
Not the front.
Not the front, it just says McDonald's.
Right, correct. The front just says the McDonald's. So yeah, the only M arch that would be on the building would be that one if it were approved.
What about the monument sign?
The monument sign, I don't remember what that. I don't think I have that one.
I don't remember.
There's a picture of your
Can't
original
imagine
one,
it
the
not.
existing one,
Mm-hmm.
in the file.
I think it's red
Okay.
and yellow.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and as part of the project, we were going to paint the monument signs with the base to get rid of the red to make it match the building. To be honest with you, I can't remember what the monument sign looks like.
I think it's just the logo.
Okay, I think so too. I think it's just I think it is just an arch.
It's in one of your
Yep,
slides.
it's in what is titled Pictures of McDonald's Site.
Yeah, because I think you had it on your.
Yeah, here it is. I mean,
Oh, I don't actually have it in this.
Oh,
You don't, okay. Yeah.
and you're gonna paint that, the bottom is red right now?
Correct. It'll be painted to match the main color of the building so that it's compliant. And so, but because it wasn't changing, it wasn't part of the deviation or anything like that. Yeah, as part of the actual project, we would change that as well.
And I actually think in these standalone buildings, these monument signs get so much more visibility than the building signage. I mean, going down 98, you're glancing, you're gonna see those monument signs. So I think their logo's out there.
Has a motion been made?
a motion has been made.
Motion is
We
second.
just and seconded. I do have one question of staff. There's a site plan included in this package that I guess is for information. Have we considered there's not a whole lot of modifications to the site itself. Does that come
No,
before us?
they're adding the dual drive-through, they're doing some ADA improvements, and they're changing the architecture of the building.
So there's no, the landscaping or site lighting, or none of that's coming before us?
Yes, landscaping, they're bringing landscaping up to code. That's really the biggest, in terms of the scenic corridor, that's the biggest area where they're non-compliant, is with because some of it has died over the years. I don't think the lighting is changing any, so I'm not sure. It's going to be coming before you. I don't know if the lighting is going to be, because I don't think they're making any changes, but there definitely will be a landscape plan, because they are bringing it up to code.
Okay. Okay. I guess where I'm going with it is this project has come before us in a lot of different little pieces.
Well, they submitted everything at once, so you've got everything to look at, but not everything has come before you yet for approval.
Okay.
That's what makes it a little confusing, is you've got
Yes.
all this stuff in front of you, but you're not taking action on all of that at this time.
Well, the landscaping, I'm not sure that that was the reason I asked the question, is there's a plan that doesn't say that anything's happening to the landscaping, but the landscaping is non-compliant now.
Yes, it is.
So you're telling me that they're going to bring that into compliance, and you already have that information?
It's being resubmitted.
Okay.
I made comments, and they're resubmitting based on those comments.
Okay.
Because my biggest comment was, they've got some plants, because this came in before the regulations, that they've got some plants that aren't allowed in the scenic corridor now.
Okay.
So they're gonna have to switch those out.
Yep.
And they're okay with that. I mean, they said they're okay with that, but
And-
that was the biggest issue from my side, was they were using some plant materials that aren't allowed.
Okay. And then is this site affected by the photograph? It looks like there are power lines overhead?
I believe there is, so there would be understory trees. I can't recall off the top of my head if they have to, I can't remember if they're putting anything new into the scenic corridor buffer. I believe they are, but it would be understory trees because of overhead power lines. Because one place where they're deficient is anywhere there's parking, there has to be a hedge, and that's obviously not there now, so they're going to have to put in a hedge. I think on all 4 sides, I believe, at least 3 sides.
Okay.
And where the site plan shows existing signs to be replaced with new signage, and it has 2 signs there, one says it's a welcome sign, one says it's a thank you sign.
Yeah, I indicated to them that they would have to get a deviation to do that. Those signs are there currently, but they're non-compliant.
Gotcha, okay.
And I did make that comment, was you're indicating you're going to replace these signs. You can only do that through a deviation. And just so, well, we're not supposed to talk about next steps, but there's also a couple signs as you leave that says thank you. Well, they want to put in some directional signs, which aren't there now. So they'll be
The
coming.
do not enter sign, is that what you're talking about, or
I think
it
it's,
has a proposed do not enter sign on the site plan?
yeah.
To not, so that nobody drives into the driveway on the west side of the building.
Right, because of that dual drive-through. Because right now, you can drive down the backside of that building and turn right onto 98, but when they put in the dual, that's going to be one way. So, yeah, that's a traffic safety sign. They don't have to come back for that, but they want to put in some directionals, so they're going to be coming back for that. Because there's no actual directionals there now, but there are some signs. There was another one. I know one that says thank you as you're turning out onto 98 there. Is it on there? Because I know.
So they have a welcome to McDonald's at East Destin, and then they also have one that says thank you as you leave. And what we were going to do was replace those 2 with this is what their new standard is. So my understanding is that, like you said, that would come before you as a deviation. My understanding is if that was denied, they would just keep what was there. I don't think they would be required to remove what they have. Is that
No,
correct?
as long as it's
Yeah.
there, it's.
Yeah, so it's kind of either or. It was kind of the more, instead of have that, it would
So
line
this-
up with their building type a little bit better. So.
Is the building remaining in operation during all this renovation? I mean, is the renovation happening as piecemeal as the applications are?
No.
Okay.
Everything would be done together.
No pun intended.
But they are completely redesigning the play place, right?
Correct.
That's going to be completely different than it currently is. But are they going to keep? I'm assuming they'll keep it open.
Yeah, they typically keep it open the entire time. So it may not, the whole store may not be open, like the lobby and everything, but they typically at least keep the drive-thru open.
Okay.
And then they may switch it where they would close the drive-thru and keep the lobby open. But yes, typically they don't shut down the restaurant as they're doing these.
Okay.
But you'll have additional branding one way or the other on the road with the welcome and thank you signs that are there now, or these signs.
Correct.
Okay.
We're outdated.
And when you say on the road, I mean, they're kind of that one is somewhat visible from the road, the other one is not, it's an
Okay.
internal sign.
Yeah, as you're exiting on 98,
Mm-hmm.
it's right there as you're going, so yeah, he can't see that from 98, he can't see that sign.
Okay.
Where I was headed with all that, were I not the chair and were I able to make motions, I'd be inclined to make a substitute motion to continue this.
Really?
I feel like we don't have the big picture.
Everything yet.
We don't have the big picture.
Well, it is, because I can only react to what I see, that's one reason it's being piecemeal, because they turn in these signs, I'm like, well, you need a deviation, and that's the only way you can do the sign. So it is unfortunate you're not seeing it all at once, because you're right, you're really not seeing the whole character of what they're trying to create with their signage on this site.
Yes.
But because of just the way it operates, they're coming in piecemeal.
I mean, I'm inclined to vote with a conservative attitude
Without that.
without a better understanding. In other words, I guess the chances of, and I can only speak for myself, the chances of me voting in favor of a deviation would be increased if I had a better understanding of the whole project.
No, I mean, we would not be opposed to continuing it and just coming back with everything in either June or July, with the whole package.
I think that's what we're going toward by changing the code as it is to have signage and building applications come to us at one time.
Like you said, I think everything was submitted together, it's just that the signage obviously
Yeah,
moved
understood.
faster
Yeah.
and the comment responses to signage, there
So-
were no comment responses.
So Tim, are you bringing us things as they have a complete package for application on whatever element? Is that
Yes.
what's driving the piecemeal?
Yeah, and,
order
well,
all?
and part of it is the advertising deadlines, right? So
Okay,
I realize this can move forward, this needs whatever, and we have to advertise now, so it can't move forward. It's been part of that as well. It's a combination of the two.
so I made the motion, correct?
You did.
Remind me, it's been a while. If the applicant, you said you're comfortable with the whole
Yeah.
thing coming back when it's
Yeah.
all ready. I'm willing to withdraw my motion and make it, if you're willing to withdraw
Yeah,
the second,
well, yes,
and make a
that's-
motion to continue until it's all ready and we can see the entire renovation plan at once. That's my motion. If we're following what we need to do.
You need to continue it to a date certain, so that would be the next
So let us
meeting.
know, will it be
Well, you
ready
can-
by the
at the
next
next
meeting,
meeting,
or
we can
does it
continue it
matter?
again.
All right, to the next meeting, the June
Because
meeting,
if it's not, you just continue it again.
the June meeting.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to continue to the June meeting. Any other questions of the applicant? Any comments from the board? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Would it not be said that we don't think about the details?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, item number 4 is now up. Hancock Whitney Bank building sign.
Okay, as you pointed out earlier, the sign exceeds the maximum allowed of 3 feet. So in light of that, they are trying to brand this site. So the building signs and the monument signs are all identical. So that being said, they would like to continue this next month so they can apply for a deviation. They're going to apply for a height deviation because they want all 3 of these signs, the 2 building signs and the monument sign, to be identical.
Okay. Would they like any feedback while they're here?
Yeah. It's kind of itching,
Is the
doesn't it?
applicant present? Okay.
My name is Tommy Duncan. I'm with Freeman Electric Sign Company.
Yes, sir.
And Hancock, as you know, Hancock is here. They're already in that building. And they have Whitney banks in other locations, and all of their banks now are going to be Hancock Whitney. So we're just taking out, actually on these wall signs, we're taking out a lot more square footage. If what's there now, it says Hancock Bank on it in 2 lines, and it takes up probably 54 square foot. And what we wanted to do here, but I understand now I have to get a deviation to do that. It needs to be the 5 foot tall. If we come down to 3 foot, you won't see anything there. So But I understand that we can't do these now. For what we would like to do, we know we have to come back for the deviation hearing, but I would like to go ahead and get the monument sign approved so that they can have some identification there.
Okay, and the intent of me inviting you up would be for the opportunity for members of the board that want to, while you're here, give you any feedback. Staff, as I understand it, the current regulation is 3 feet or 4 feet? 3 feet. So this is a pretty substantial deviation request to go from 3 feet to 5 feet on a sign. And I don't want you to be surprised by that.
But the square footage part, if that has anything to do with it, we're actually allowed 54 square foot. Is that right, Tim? 54 square foot, and I'm using, it's really not even 25, because as you see, it's a circle. So if you figure the square footage of the circle is a little less than 20. So we're less than half the square footage that we're allowed. It's just that to have their logo, you have to have the bigger space, especially as far back as that building is from the road.
Okay.
You do understand it's a both-and situation. In other words, you're allowed up to 54 square feet,
Yes, sir, I understand.
but no object, letter, or anything else can be taller than 36 inches.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
And how, do you know what the dimension of the letters on this sign are?
You know, I have not measured them, but I'm thinking that they're probably, it looks like, you're talking about the existing letters?
Yes, well, the letters.
Oh, on
Dimension of those
that, no,
letters. Yeah.
on that 5 foot, those are 7 inch tall.
Okay.
And what about the circle in the middle that has the logo? How tall is that? Just the blue part, yeah. Is that? It's on this.
Okay, you talking about where it just has the little W?
Yeah, just the
Where-
blue part
it-
from the top to the bottom of the blue.
I'm sorry, what?
The top to the bottom of that blue circle.
Okay, that's probably 2 foot.
So my understanding, the applicant, you, Mr., what was your name?
I'm Tommy.
Tommy, Mr. Tommy, that you wish to come back for a deviation on the building signs,
Correct.
but you wish the monument sign to be heard tonight.
Please.
Everybody got that?
And the monument sign doesn't include a deviation.
No, I don't need a deviation on the monument
But
sign.
it's non-compliant as applied for a few reasons.
Actually, I have a handout. He gave me a new sign graphic yesterday afternoon. Do you want it now?
Yes, please.
I think these two interplay because I think they want their monument sign and their building signs to be similar, so we might want to take that into account.
I don't think similar.
The same, identical, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which the new height? Got it. It's interesting.
Well, with the exception that this sign shows that the dimension of the circle is 4 feet.
Yes, sir. That's on the monument sign itself.
So what, it's actually bigger on the wall than it is on the monument?
Yes. The wall is up high, you know, and so and for aesthetics, you want to, you know, as you can see on this, for the aesthetics, you want this filled in.
Can I ask a question of staff?
Yes, sir.
When we look at the requirements on the monument signs, Tim, we have a lot of square footage issue and 35% of this and that and everything else. But if I recall, there's nothing that specifies a maximum height of any of the copy on there, other than it falls within those other restrictions. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so other than, and I haven't looked at this, is this new sign you're proposing backlit or lit from another source?
It's non-illuminated.
Okay,
Originally, it was internally lit, so that made it non-compliant, but they've taken those out.
And
So the
it's-
new application appears to be compliant
Yes,
for a monument sign.
yeah.
yes,
is it
he made the
number-
changes to make it compliant.
Okay.
So what changes were made to go from pan formed acrylic? I just haven't had a chance to
Right.
read this.
It's aluminum now,
Okay.
Yeah, all that is,
and it's non-illuminated, and he added the 911 address, which wasn't there previously.
Let me ask you about the signs on the building. Are those, it's the sign depicted on the building to scale so that what you're seeing on the building is the way it's going to look on that building? Is it?
approximately, yes, ma'am.
It says in that top left-hand corner, not to scale.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but just how close are we though?
That matters
Yeah.
a lot.
I can bring it back in scale if you need.
Yeah, we
it.
would like to see that so
Okay.
that it's to scale.
Yeah,
And one of the thoughts I have, and anybody else that wants to chime in can say so, is I know that they do want to have their logo there for branding purposes. Could they just do a 3-foot tall logo sign on the building? And because they'll have the, just with the blue part, because they'll have the sign that says Hancock Whitney on their monument sign at the road.
I can add, I'm just a sign guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just
The
a,
bank, this is what is called a badge.
yes.
In fact, when I left Panama City, we were putting up one that's 150 foot in the air, and it's
Wow.
considerably bigger
Okay.
than this, but I can't answer that.
Okay,
I mean, I could ask them, but I know what they want. But
okay.
May I make just a comment, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. If the letters were individual letters and not part of a single big badge, as you called it, and just the W was the badge, and you stacked the letters around the logo, the W, as letters, not as part of a badge itself, would that satisfy the bank?
no, sir.
Okay.
And it
They- I
doesn't
mean, they're-
satisfy the code either.
They have to have, I mean, this look is everywhere.
Your letters would still be,
Yeah, you'd still have an overall sign height that would be
I
in
see what you're
excess.
saying, I see what you're saying.
Right, you would
It
just
look
be,
better, but- So let me make sure I'm just reading our agenda correctly. We have, not only is the sign itself, the size, the height out of compliance, but they're asking for 2 building signs when there should only be 1?
oh, no, they're-
on the corner.
They're on the corner.
They are on the corner.
yeah.
They're on the corner
Okay.
of 393 South and 98, so they can have both signs. The only non-compliance is the height of the sign.
Oh, okay, so are there 2 items for building signs? Are there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Building 1 and building 2, or building sign 1 and
So
building sign
because-
2. So one's facing 98, the other one's facing 393.
They're both too high, so
They're
that's
both
the
5
only
feet
reason
tall.
for both, okay.
Yes, they're identical. They're both 5 feet tall.
But we're looking at the monument sign right now, correct? Just
Well,
strictly the monument
I
sign?
think you're looking at all 3 of
Well,
them.
I thought we
We're
were
trying to give him some
continuing
input on the
on the-
building sign so that when he comes back asking for the deviation, he has some idea what we might be
Yeah.
inclined to.
And when I come back, I'll bring them to, I'll have it put to scale.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, another question I have, this is going back to the monument sign. I'm also understanding that it's allowed to be 12 feet high, but this particular one is, the application is for 7 feet in height
Mhm.
total.
Yes.
It looks, and again, this says not to scale, so I don't even know, I'm not sure if we know this answer, but the hedge is partially covering that monument sign right now, even the logo part, from the road. Is that, do you know if that's an actual condition?
It's according to how you look at it. The hedge is there, yes.
Because if the bank is concerned about visibility, and they could get more visibility for that monument sign by making it a little higher, that might be wise versus multiple deviations to try to create visibility. That's just a thought and a suggestion. Not that, I mean, I love low signs, but it would be within code.
Yeah, and that, just so you know, that sign sits pretty far back because of the right-of-way. There's just a lot of right-of-way, 98 right-of-way right there. Because when I first saw it, I was wondering, why is it set so far back? It's got to be within the first 25 feet. Well, it's Highway 98 right-of-way.
Might be another reason to make
There's
it
a
a
turn,
little
I think
taller.
there's a turn lane right there, so that's probably why.
I believe you're right. I think there is a turn lane right there.
Okay, well, because I'm detecting that most of the audience is here for the last, must be one of the last items, I think we've probably given the applicant some feedback, so we can give consideration to table, or continuing items 4 and 5, and dealing with item number 6, the monument sign. Okay?
Motion to continue item number 4
Okay.
to the June meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comments from the board? Any comments from staff? Any comments from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to continue number 5.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, probably moved and second. Any comments from the board? From staff? From the public? Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, oh, I'm sorry. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item number 6, the Hancock Whitney Bank Monument sign. Okay, I think we've had a sufficient presentation. Everyone agree with that? All right. Any questions? Anybody interested in making a motion?
I move that we approve the monument sign.
As presented, no modification?
As presented on
The revised
revised
application?
application.
Okay, dated May 3rd, I guess, would be the... Okay, is that clear enough, Madam Attorney, for the purposes of the record, what we're voting on?
Motion to approve well, let me ask the clerk, is that clear to the clerk what's being approved? Are there multiple?
It was an item that was handed out.
Modified tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yep.
Okay,
You
yeah.
want to label it exhibit?
Yeah,
label
let's-
staff report, and keep this one with the core of the final.
Sure, in other words, the item we're voting on is not what was in the packet electronically. Yep, okay, just as long as that's clear.
Yeah, just
to
as
you.
long as it's clear in the record what is being approved.
Okay, so there was a motion and I believe a second. Do we have a second?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
No, we were talking about whether or not it should be raised a little higher so that it would be more visible, even though it would
That was just
Um,
a
add
suggestion I
to-
threw out.
Okay.
but
And that's up to the applicant if they wanted to
Come back.
come back.
Right.
in order to
Yeah, I
have
mean, it
taller
wouldn't be
signs.
exactly what you all are looking at, but it'd still be compliant. They can go up to 12 feet in height.
Okay. All right,
Do we not have a second?
not yet.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Okay. Okay, so we moved and seconded. Do we have any other comments or questions from the board?
no, leave it at that.
Okay. Any more comment, or any comments from the public? No. All right, we are ready to vote. Should it be? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Tommy?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item number 7.
Yes, as you may or may not recall, Dixie Electric Car was in here previously with a building sign on the west elevation that was denied, so they've come back with a new sign. This is a request for a building sign measuring 302 inches by 24 inches for a total of 50.33 square feet on 3.61 acres, which are future land use of village mixed use. This is in compliance. They think it's more in line with the other signage. That's for y'all to determine, but it is in compliance with the senior quarter regulations. So I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Oh, jeez, went right out of my head. Oh.
I hate it when that
It's a
happens.
long day. Oh, God. Oh, this is my question about the code. There is no restriction on what can be on a building sign, say advertising a brand you sell versus the name of your business or anything like that, correct?
No.
Okay.
We don't regulate content.
Content, yep. And my second question, is this really to scale? That 2 feet looks
It looks
huge
huge.
on this. That just seems,
Yeah.
is the applicant here?
I agree, that looks huge, so I'm not sure if it is to scale, but
It is, wow. That must be a short.
it does look awfully.
It just looks. I guess so.
But that building's only 30 foot deep, we used to 50 foot building that you see on the side.
Can you come up to the mic, please?
Yeah, come on. The height is what's getting me.
Looks like it's only about 16 feet long. Yeah, that's a short commercial. 16, 17 feet long.
I was more thinking about the height. The height looks, just from memory of looking at the building,
It's probably the angle of the photographer,
might be,
me.
because he's looking up at the building. You're looking up at.
I was in the drainage ditch looking at it.
Exactly. That might be what's going on, because it's making the building look
Looks like
squatty.
that, yeah.
That's what it is. It's making the building look squatty. Do you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Because of the perspective of the
Yeah,
photograph.
but it is to scale.
All right, this just looks.
Okay, I have a question, and that is, there is a sign on the front of this building, and the prior application was denied, as I recall, primarily
Yeah,
because the
that's-
2 signs.
That's what it looks like the front of the building.
Yes, and the issue last time was the 2 signs didn't match.
Color,
At all, in any way.
color and font. Golf cars now matches the font and the colors match the front sign. Samples of such colors.
Yeah, the colors match, right?
They match the existing signage on the front of the building and on the monument. And this is what we call perforated vinyl. You're probably familiar. It's
Yeah, you
black,
educated us on
looks
that last time.
black in the day, white in the night.
Did you see the picture? Can you show us that picture of the sign on the front again?
It's got some notes on it, but,
So that's orange, okay.
yeah, it's the
not
same,
red.
it's
Yeah.
exactly the same orange. We'll use exactly the same orange.
This fits the building. It just looks huge to me in this picture, but
I'm pretty close to when I took that picture.
it's really long. It looks big both ways. It just surprises me. It's weird. Anyway.
Okay, well, any further comments or questions? Anybody willing to make a motion?
Just us girls, Tom's out on this one.
It just looks huge on the side of that building. It just seems to take it up.
Is it the same size as the height as the one on the front? Design professional, what do you think?
Well, he responded to my question, which is I think it will be perceived as matching the sign on the front of the building, which is, I think, the intent of the code.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. Oh, we
If
want
I
to,
could just for the record, just wanted to make sure for the record we've got, there is, one of the board members is recusing themselves from this vote, and for purposes of compliance with the statute, you'll just need to just generally state the nature of the conflict, and the clerk has
As
the
I,
conflict.
that was
form.
as I put on my form, we have a business conflict. I have a business conflict. We're competitors, business competitors.
And what do you do,
He's-
sir?
Yes, sir.
He's not going to be participating.
What do you
in this-
do there? You sell golf cars?
Yes, sir.
look closely at
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just for the record, this particular board member is not going to be voting on this matter.
Now, Madam Attorney, does this also mean that this will require unanimous vote to pass?
It would.
So don't we need to inform the applicant?
Oh, yes, I believe that is a standard, a comment that has traditionally been made. And we're not in the habit of encouraging every single applicant to continue their application. However, the 4 remaining members voting will all have to vote in favor in order for this to pass. I guess if one of us votes against it, it will fail. And the effect of that is that you will not be able to come back with a similar application. So we always make you aware and give you the option, if you so wish, you can request that we continue this item so it's not down to 4 yeas and.
I think we'll just go for a decision.
Very good. All right. All right, we had a motion and I'm still not sure I heard a second.
I said.
Oh, you did, I did, okay. It was properly motioned and seconded. I believe we disposed of all the comments and questions of the board and of staff and of the applicant. Any members of the public wish to comment? All right, in that case, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed?
Just to clear.
No.
You're
I'm
voting
sorry.
in
I'm-
favor? Okay.
I'm voting.
Okay, in that case, the motion carries unanimously 4-0 with
Tom,
abstaining. Yes.
with Tom abstaining.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number, what are we up to? 8, which is, hold on a second, getting that order here. That would be the Blake at Miramar.
Yes. You guys got a presentation on this last month, so you're somewhat familiar with it. This is a major development order request, requesting approval to develop a 115,000 square foot assisted living and memory care facility with associated improvements on plus or minus 10.61 acres with a future land use of coastal center mixed use. As it was originally submitted, they did not provide the approved Munsell colors, mostly because they didn't have access to them, because it's proprietary. They have since come into our office, looked through the books, got the colors, and they have a handout when they come up, so they are presenting you with approved colors. So other than with that said, it's in compliance, so I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I need to request a 60-second pause.
Okay, we've got a request from a member to suspend the meeting.
If we could take it
a recess.
a little longer than 60 seconds, I'll print out that stuff for retail therapy.
Great, it's 5 minutes
Great.
enough?
Yeah.
Okay, we are taking a 5-minute recess.
If I stop it,
Yeah, I have a couple day grace period and then it's all
Yep,
downhill.
yep.
So. And I've been doing yard work and all kinds of stuff. So. Anyway. Okay, we've got our board back and we got Tim back.
great. All right.
Mac is back. Yep, there we go. All right, we are reconvening. Karen, are we on recording? We good? Yep, okay. Okay, we are back in session, action, and we are at item number 8, and the staff has distributed some items, and Tim, do you want to complete your presentation?
Yeah, I was going to take any questions you may have.
Are these colors that you've got listed on this front sheet, are those pretty accurate to what they're chosen as far as the real samples?
I would say
You've already answered the question.
I would say
I think that's a no.
I would say not really. I mean, when you reproduce this on a copier, it's not way out of line, but I think no, it's not quite accurate. But they are approved colors. I know you want to know exactly what it looks like, but that's
And we don't have chips samples from the,
no, yes. I mean, they just got it today because they didn't have access to the book.
oh, so they had to change their colors.
Yes, and we kind of dropped the ball when it came here last month because they were showing black, and black has never been an approved color. I mean, we've got it out there because they got deviations. 30 Avenue is white and black, the Crossings is white and black, but neither I nor the board mentioned to them last month that, hey, by the way, black isn't an approved color.
So is this safe to say this is dark, that the actual colors are kind of darker than this? Because this,
Well, the gray is darker.
that says dark gray, and that is not dark.
Right.
Right.
It's darker than that. It's not dark, but it's darker than that. I can get the book if you want.
Very precise.
Karen, are you capturing all this? I think we just need pictures of Tim's face in the minutes.
I was gonna go get the book. I was trying to whisper it.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you, Mac. Okay, colors aside for a second.
We'll need both of them. So is there any additional questions I can answer?
And that was the only deficiency, so that's been noted on the staff report, so that's
Yes.
met.
Yeah, they supplied all the other information that we require.
Okay, and then what is before us is the whole thing.
Yeah.
The architecture, the signage, or when you don't have signage?
No signage, but as I mentioned last month, only a portion of the building is actually in the scenic corridor, but we've made a determination if part of it is in, we're going to consider it, all of it as being in the scenic corridor. So that's what's happening here. We're considering the whole project site as being in the scenic corridor, but there is a portion that's beyond the 400 feet.
Okay. And then as far as the site plan itself goes, is that, we talked about that at some pretty good extent last time. Is the documents being submitted on the site plan, are they identical to what was provided last year?
Actually, no. They modified it a little bit based on your comments from last month. You'd have to talk to them to get the exact, what they changed, but they did modify it somewhat based on your comments from last month.
Okay.
I know the footprint changed slightly,
So
right?
the most recent inserts are up to date.
Okay.
The ones we got tonight.
No, civil inserts.
Yeah. They're not in, they're in the electronic package, but not in this PowerPoint.
You should have hard copies as well.
I could have sworn I saw some signage
There is a sign.
somewhere.
Hmm?
Why am I
Right here,
not
it's a
seeing
monument
it?
sign.
Why am I not seeing it now?
It's 18, page 18.
Is this located across from Stock and Trade on 98? Is Ponce de Leon the street that it parallels?
The entrance is off of Ponce de Leon.
Okay.
They have three entrances. If you look, it shows four curb cuts, but one of them's a one-way in, one-way out. We consider that as one. So there's three entrances off Ponce de Leon,
Okay.
which is actually the maximum allowed under our code is 3.
So you getting the third color, middle color?
Okay.
And he's getting the middle color now. It's on in a different book.
It's the top color is the top color, and the bottom color is the bottom color on the original.
While we're shuffling around up here, just for posterity, can you tell us what changes you made? And this is not a requirement, I'm requesting this, from when you were here last month to now?
Certainly.
Other than I guess the colors are one, but other than that.
Yeah, Andy Yarborough with the Blake at Mirabar Beach. I've also got Vincent Orlando with Duplantis Design Group, civil engineer here. And I apologize for my architect who was here last month and intended to be here this afternoon. His flight canceled in Dallas for weather. So I'm here playing architect, although I'm barely qualified to color inside the lines with my 4-year-old. So please take that into consideration as I try to answer your questions.
No worries.
Last month when we were here, most of the comments were centered around just the elevations. And some of the requests were to take a little of the busyness. There were a lot of adornments on the building, so we tried to pare back some of the jewelry, if you will. There were also comments about some round windows that we had on the front elevation that were on the exterior of our chapel, which is interior to the building. And there was a request to change those to make them consistent with the other windows on the exterior elevation, which we did. There was also a comment as to the darkness of some of the trim, shutters, and other accents, which we tried to tone down to a more neutral gray color as well. From my recollection, those were the most substantive comments that we heard, and we're grateful for the opportunity for y'all to give us early feedback, and we tried to address all of those in this resubmittal.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
David, did you get a chance to look at landscape plan and lighting photometric?
Actually, I'm just checking on chapter 5 right now, but yes, as I recall, last month, we were pretty happy with the landscape plans.
And is there rooftop HVA equipment, and is it all concealed completely under roof or behind a parapet or whatever?
Yes, ma'am, and there are some cut sheets in what you have electronically showing how those are concealed.
I'm not always great at being able to read those.
Me neither.
Probably with you and your kid on the drawing. So that's the middle color. This is the middle color.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and the print copies probably did not do a very good job of replicating the colors in the book.
The change in the windows makes a big difference.
Good.
Nice.
Okay, Donna. This is the.
For the board, I have the revised plan since the last meeting. If anybody wants to look at those, I'm happy to pass them down.
Sure. Thank you. Just ask a question, if maybe by a show of hands, could those that are in the audience relating to this project put your hand up? Okay, great. I'll make sure we catch their info. And so, Tim, we are, or I'm sorry I had to ask this twice, we are or are not considering the monument sign tonight? Just to be clear.
We are not, but you can provide any feedback since it's being presented. It just hasn't been advertised to move forward.
Tim, is the signage going to come back to us,
Or is it,
or will we see it? I'm
yeah,
unclear.
is the signage in the,
Is it going to come back to us, the signage?
Yes, I don't know when. They haven't turned in an application or anything, but
That's fine.
yes.
Okay.
I was just, the only thing I'm looking up is just the maximum lighting.
It's like there's a bunch of hot spots here.
That's exactly why there's some lighting that's up at 16 or 17 foot candles, if that's the unit that's used here, and that's pretty high. But the intensity of light is currently regulated, the way the code is currently written is regulated by the Chapter 5. Our Tim or Mac, do you remember off the Max Cohen? Do you remember what the maximum foot candles allowed is, Tim?
15 for non-residential at the property line.
At the property line. So within the property, the intensity is not regulated.
Right, it's measured at the property line.
All right.
That's a lot. 15's a lot, but that's what the
That's a
current
lot.
code says. That's like a football field lit up,
Yeah,
or
we're gonna-
baseball field, whatever, soccer field lit up at night.
I personally would beg that that be brought down.
Yeah, well, that's why we've been looking at it, but, okay, well, that answers the question. I was trying to find that in Chapter 5, but that would be my only comment on the site plan, is that there are some spots around the building that are pretty intensely lit. I guess, Mr. Applicant, do you have any?
Sure. So I do know that our electrical engineer took a close look at all of the photometric data to ensure compliance with your codes. If there's a sensitivity to certain hot spots that you see, I don't have specific insight up here this afternoon into exactly what those hot spots are. I'd be happy to come around and take a look, but our objective is to be a good partner to the community. So, can you maybe bring to my attention a specific area?
Well, this is an example. There's a number of different light fixtures as we go around the perimeter of the building. They look like they're located.
At entranceways.
Yes, at entranceways to the building, and I understand, given the population using the building, but I'm now finding spots that are at over 20-foot candles.
Yeah, I'm looking at
20,
121.5 now,
22.8.
25.6.
I mean, that is a lot of light.
Yeah, 23.9.
Yeah, it looks like there's, and I think what may be causing it, it looks like there's wall packs and post-mounted lighting in close proximity to each other, and they're combining to really generate some pretty bright areas. I would be concerned that the window treatment would have to be pretty dang good to keep that light out of the inside of the building. So I think this is one of those things that, given the fact that a good portion of the site is outside the area, I know that, and I agree with the staff, that we consider, we review it to the standards because a portion of the site's in the area, but I mean, it looks, in terms of being code compliant, you're at 0 pretty much the entire perimeter. So that's certainly code compliant, but I would strongly suggest that y'all consider looking at
certainly
reducing the level of light up against the building.
I think it's as much about balance too in the light. It almost looks like if you go down the center of the driveway and parking on either side, it's like this as far as your lighting intensity goes.
That's helpful feedback. We'll gladly take that into consideration. Our objective is to be practical with our lighting. We do deal with a frail age cohort, but we certainly have no agenda to light it up like a football field if it's unnecessary.
Yeah, as an example, at the Fort Cachere, looks like the covered drop-off. Below that, you have 12, 14, 16, and that's understandable. You got folks getting in and out of cars, that type of thing. But away from that, up against the back of the building, you've got now finding a spot that's 24-foot candles. That is extremely bright.
I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
So what would be a suggested maximum to help them out?
I mean, again, given the population, we don't want anyone falling into flower beds or off curbs or anything like that. So, up in the low teens is pretty well lit.
I'm sure your industry has a standard.
We do. I mean, it's there are ADA requirements too that require certain foot candles, and certain foot candles are required because of our licensure type being a healthcare facility. So hopefully there's not any divergence among your requirements and the other regulators' requirements.
Okay. And again, that's a I guess, a strong suggestion, but not.
Yes, sir. Noted.
Okay. Anybody else have any?
Well, help me, I'm having trouble finding where, I see HVAC equipment placed on the roof from above roof plan, but, and I may just be missing it, I usually am. I can't find where it shows it from the viewpoint. Still looking. Bear with us, this stuff is so
Sure.
tiny on our computer screens. It's like, it takes a minute to get through it. But we just need to make sure it's completely concealed from view.
Have you looked at A410, 4.10?
I think that that cut sheet, Mrs. Moore, may be in the A7, 716 perhaps.
Okay. And I'm going to A410 in a minute here. It's a lot of pages.
A411.
Yeah, but that's from above, so I can't, you know what I
see
mean?
what you're trying
We need it from the side. A7, you said?
I think so. I'm going from memory.
And Lee, if you, I mean, these are even tinier than what's on your screen, but you're welcome to.
At least I can blow these up. It's just difficult navigating. I can't find it.
We'll have one of our contractors here who can speak to that as well.
Great.
And again, practically, it's always important to us to disguise all of that mechanical equipment behind parapet walls and
Yes.
mansards.
Yes, excuse me, Joe Yarborough, okay? As to your question, from the street, all of the elevation views, none of the HVAC equipment is visible. That's why the parapets are where they are. All of the roof wells, if you look at your cut sheet, they're actually behind the highest ridge from, so not only is the view obscured by the parapets, but they're also obscured by the main ridge that runs lengthwise in the building. Even so, with our courtyards, we do have roof wells behind the courtyards, but we've been very careful to conceal those behind parapets as well. So I can assure you, from the street, from the parking area, you'll never know there's HVAC equipment. We've ridden up and down 98 and seen some of the mistakes prior, in the past, so we know what you're sensitive to, and we are as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And Tim, is it just from the equipment can't be visible from any angle at this point? I know we're either considering or have made a change in the code recently.
Well, we made a change that if you're going to have parapet walls, you have to have them on all four sides. But the way the code reads, I believe it's from 98. I don't think it says any right of way. You can't see it from 98. And this sits pretty far off of 98.
Thank you, sir.
And there are small amounts of equipment on 3 of the corners. That's where your dual-sided parapets are on your elevations. Conceal that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question on the landscape plan. Reading, this is the current package that we were just given.
Okay.
And there may be some confusion about north. Okay, so if the way I'm reading this, the buffer requirements are listed. Required north buffer depth 20 feet, buffer distance 110 lineal feet. I guess what I'm wondering is the north arrow, Highway 98 weaves a little bit. I'm not sure what the orientation of Highway 98 is right here. I mean, generally, you guys are on
We're on the north side of
the north side of
98, yes.
And so, is this the north buffer zone, or is this the north buffer zone? I'm not.
The top of the page.
Yeah, it should
Top
be
of the page,
plan view
so
north.
This north arrow is accurate.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I'm at a little bit of a loss. 110, what does 110 lineal feet indicate?
That is probably referring to the length of the 20-foot buffer along the north side of the building in between us and Legion Park.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest of that northern, to the east is a wetland.
Yep, okay. And so, Tim, to the south, there is no buffer zone because this is another commercial property?
Right, it's designed to be mixed use, so there's no requirement for a buffer in between the two mixed use developments.
Okay. All right, understood, okay.
So they're only required, because of the wetland, they're only required to have that northern buffer and then a buffer along the road, Ponce de Leon.
Yep, okay, understood. All right, well, that looks like it's compliant. Okay. All right, we do have members of the public that wish to speak, so do we have a general sense of where we're headed with this? Anybody else want to look at the package? Any further questions of the applicant? All right, do we have a motion in the making? Do we want to? Madam Attorney, are we absolutely bound that we can't take public input before a motion's made, or is that, can I use prerogative as the chair to do that?
I mean, typically it is, you make a motion in the second and then you open up public comment, but, I think there's some discretion to the board and how you wish to conduct your meetings.
Would y'all like to hear the public's comments? Okay. Members of the public, could y'all come forward? And if you would, identify yourself for the... if you're comfortable coming forward individually, you'll certainly be able to speak individually, and unless folks go on for a while, we'll probably, allow a few minutes.
I have a couple packets if you want them.
Okay, thank you.
Because we have a small problem with one of the major...
Yeah, and if you, once you hand out the packets, if you could identify yourself and then spell your last name if you could.
My name's Jonathan Russell, Russell.
Thank you.
I live at Cocoa Court, or 18 Cocoa Court. I'm the owner, and with my wife, who's in the audience. Cocoa Court is, if you see the first page, my house is actually marked on there, so you can kind of get an idea of where I am.
The little red thing?
Sorry, I'm a little nervous, never done this before.
Don't be nervous.
Yeah,
we have a really bad drainage problem on this road. And it only happens maybe every 6 months when we have a decent amount of rain. It will flood that entire blue area. And it's about 1.5 feet of water in some places. The last page of the packet has pictures. It's only ever happened at night, so I've yet to get a picture of it happening during the day, but it's kind of scary. And the rest of it is just pictures of the drainage on the road. What I'm concerned about is, and a couple other people, my neighbors in general, is when they put in Mattress Firm, which is on the west side of Ponce de Leon, it caused more drainage problems because you now have a big parking lot where water used to absorb into the ground, and now they want to put a 115,000 square foot building where water currently drains into the ground before it runs down the drains. Really what we're just concerned about is increase in traffic from this, because everybody that's going to this place is going to go to the light on the next road down. So we're going to have increased traffic coming down this road towards Legion Park, and then going over and back up the road on Miramar Beach Boulevard, I think. It might be that on the other side. That's a concern. This is a major concern, because it already gets pretty close to halfway up my yard, and 6 more inches of water, it'll be in my front door. Same thing with across the street and around us. I know that Legion Park Loop also has problems with drainage when it comes down, because it flows towards the back, and they have that retention pond at the back of Legion Park. It flows that way, and it'll fill up on their streets also. I'm not sure if that's county, but since Ponce de Leon is county, I think that the county should be addressing this road if they're going to allow a large building and put in place.
Okay.
Also, this is the first we've heard about it last week. We didn't even know there was another meeting. That was another problem. Like, you guys have already talked about this, but they didn't inform any of the homeowners next door.
The last month they came before us, this board actually has asked that large projects, that we hear about them
Before us?
Well, not before y'all, they come before us. And so that if we have any questions or comments, rather than having to digest, you'll notice our conversation about the colors and the architecture of the building was pretty short.
Yep.
And that's because we had the benefit of looking at it a little bit a month ago, but we were not rendering a decision, anything like that.
Our first notice on this whole thing was April 19th.
Yes.
Which is literally, not even 2 total weeks ago, which is kind of short notice for people to be here.
Yes. And I'm just going to ask the staff if they could run through the various committees and boards that this project will go in front of, and explain
the requirement is the sign has to be posted 14 days prior to the meeting. The letters have to be postmarked 10 days prior.
That is not a lot of time for us to do anything.
Yeah.
To even say our concerns, especially when there's something like this. You guys wouldn't know this existed unless one of us came up and said, hey, we got a major flooding problem here. I think one of our neighbors has been coming to these meetings and trying to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Recently they did dig out one of the ditches.
Yes.
But the other side of the road doesn't have a ditch, which causes a problem with drainage.
Yes.
Actually getting out
And
of it.
Well, and that's not really something this board can adjudicate.
Okay, so how would,
Well, that's what.
It still has to go to the planning commission
Okay.
and the county commission, so you need to bring those up at those meetings.
Okay, and will I get a notification when those
Yes,
meetings
you'll
are
get
done?
another certified letter for each of those meetings. You'll
Okay.
get one for the planning commission, you'll get one for the county commission.
Has this been to TRC already?
Yes, it went the second time yesterday. See, they redesigned it. When it first came in, it was over 180,000 square feet. So when it went to the Blake, they shrunk it down to 115. So that was, we felt, a big enough change that it went back to the TRC yesterday. And, you know, I'm sorry you didn't know that. You don't always know when you get these notifications,
Yeah.
but this board deals mostly with aesthetics.
Okay.
So
Well,
they
the
can't.
first of hearing
they-
about it, so we figured we might as well come up and, hey.
Yeah, well, we actually want to give you the benefit of understanding the
Yeah,
process.
it gives you the
hasn't-
big picture. I'm just saying they don't really adjudicate
Okay.
drainage for the project, but that is something that's appropriate for the planning commission and the county commission.
Okay. As far as light, I have those same concerns, because I didn't even think about that before we came in here, is that if there's a football field across the street, I don't.
And that's why we're looking to change
Yeah.
the lighting standards in
So
the
thank
city
you for,
quarter.
thank you for that.
Sure. And just for accuracy's sake, and this is brand new, so make sure I understand. When the larger developments come to us ahead of time, that's not a requirement of the applicant, correct?
Currently, no, but the way we've got the draft ordinance, it's still not a requirement, but we formalize it more. I mean, we highly encourage it. It's in there now. You can do it now, but the way the new draft ordinance is, it's,
More formalized, but it's
Yeah.
not an absolute requirement.
no.
And is that even, does that even come to the same advertising requirements?
We don't advertise it because there's no decision being.
Right, see, we don't render a decision, it's just kind of an information only and an exchange of ideas, so.
That's
Just
right.
wanted to be clear about that.
That's
for
right.
Public's benefit.
So for future reference, there'll be another hearing on whether.
There'll be 2 more
There are
hearings.
2 more hearings?
Yes.
Okay, and I will get a certified letter for both of those?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, those are my concerns for now. I mean, so this is just on the aesthetics. what
We're
it
talking
looks
about
like.
colors,
It would be
lighting
nice
is
if they
part
put
of it.
that in the certified letter. That's exactly what
Yeah.
this was going to. This was really just like, hey, we're doing this. Come to this thing if you object to it, and that's. I don't object to it. I'm just concerned.
And actually, this is, I was gonna bring this up since we're talking about this, and Matt, God, why do I keep calling him Matt? Tim. We do have this happen quite frequently.
Yes, we do.
Is there a way that we could include in the letter for the DRB notification a very short bullet point of what we're considering, because
You want to see what they say?
some people might travel in if they don't live here full time, and no, I believe you. It's a standard thing that they do. Just for,
I don't see any reason why we can't do that, because we've got an exhibit in the application. So we can add a note for the DRB to put that in the letter, yeah.
I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and I never really thought about that, but you're right. I mean, we've gotten that quite a bit over the last few months, and it makes everyone feel bad that they came in, and, you know.
And us bad that we can't.
Right. I mean, you have no way of knowing, but yeah, that's a good idea. I don't see why we can't do that.
Thank you.
Tim, are you confident there's more than one certified letter that goes out on a major development?
Yes, they have to provide us notification that they sent it out
But it only goes out once.
3 times, if there's 3 meetings. They have to post a sign and send certified letters for each public hearing. That's the DRB, the Planning Commission, the County Commission. Now, they use the same sign and just change the dates, but they have to send out 3 certified letters. Now, sometimes not so much now, because we make you can't be advertised for the next meeting until you get through the previous one, but they used to do this Planning Commission and the County Commission at the same time, the signs and the letters. The letters say Planning Commission's on such and such a date, County Commission's, so they would save one of those certified letters. But now it's pretty much three letters, because they're usually 3 months apart. You do, DRB in May, Planning Commission in June, County Commission in July.
And for purposes of monitoring things, if you're interested, you can also see the meeting schedule on the Walton County website.
Okay.
And it actually has something where you can look at the agenda and everything too, to see what's going on.
Well, thank you guys. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't want to waste your time either.
No, it's okay.
It's not a waste of time. It gives them a broader picture of what's going on.
Hi, thank you for hearing me too, and perhaps my comments are out of time, out of place also, because we also, as residents, by the way, my name is Lars Rygard, 19 Cocoa Court. As residents on our street, we do feel we did not get much of a notice of the meeting, and therefore we're not able to view the aesthetics of the building and the proper plan, and therefore we thank you guys for doing your due diligence in keeping the project as a conforming use. Our concern on Cocoa Court is 3 things. Number 1 is drainage, number 2 is traffic, and number 3 is aesthetics. And more specifically, in the area of aesthetics, we're interested in maintaining the residential feel, look, and overall community that we have just to the north of the proposed project. And as I don't need to tell you, there is a residential complex that abuts the proposed building. I understand the green belt is 20 feet. Overall, as far as the project is concerned, as a resident of the community, we do like the nature of the project. We feel like it's a good use for the land. So I think, me personally, there's no objection to the intended use of the land. However, we do feel that there's some areas that the county could proactively look at to help us maintain our residential area. Specifically, as it relates to traffic, while we don't object to the project, having 3 or 4 traffic inlets and outlets on the 2-lane Ponce de Leon road that's 25 miles an hour seemed like a lot of traffic to dump onto that road. If there's no traffic light that goes up on Ponce de Leon and 98, then the proposed traffic would need to exit out of the complex. They would need to travel north on Ponce de Leon. Then they would turn left traveling west on Shore, and then again they would turn left on Geronimo. They would turn left on Geronimo, and that's the first stoplight that would be available for a left-hand turn onto 98. So by having that many driveways on Ponce de Leon, we fear not only an increased traffic amount on Ponce de Leon, but as being we're the first house on Ponce de Leon. John, who just spoke before me, is the second house. And we can tell you, people coming from 98 traveling north on Ponce de Leon, 25 miles an hour is never observed. They usually don't slow down until they realize that they're in the midst of a residential area. So perhaps a way that could be mediated would be to maybe consider some type of a frontage road in between the two mixed-use lots that would run parallel with US 98, alleviating the need for 3 driveways out onto Ponce de Leon. Second item that we're concerned about is the drainage to the west of Legion Park Loop, which is the subdivision, the first subdivision on the right-hand side as you come down Ponce de Leon. There used to be drainage ditches in front of that subdivision. At some point, those drainage ditches got filled in. As you can see from John's excellent diagram, everything that is in blue, that water that comes from the proposed or from the vacant lot now, if that water does not drain in, because there's no drainage available in the front of Legion Park Loop, that water comes over the crest of the road and then it dumps down into Cocoa Court. When we moved to Cocoa Court 6 years ago, we checked the flood zones, realizing that the home was not in a flood zone. However, 3 houses on our street have in fact flooded. And this was after we feel that there has been some building that has gone on. And the commercial building, it seems like, probably almost without exception, a lot of the commercial developers will bring in a lot of soil and elevate the buildings. And so theoretically, in my opinion, the water has got to go somewhere. If you're putting concrete on top of a piece of land that originally was dirt, now that water can't drain, so that water has to go somewhere. Our concern is the northwest corner of the development, being able to know that there is some type of a consideration made for the drainage attaching in and working properly on the east side of Ponce de Leon. I'm addressing some concerns, and I will also offer my amateur opinion as to a solution. And the solution seems to be to reinstate the drainage ditch in front of Legion Park Loop and make sure that that drainage can flow all the way down unencumbered on that side of Ponce de Leon to the Legion Park. And again, I realize that this is perhaps doesn't fall on the developer, and so we're not saying, hey, developer, you need to assure us we're not going to have an area that floods, but at the same time, the relationship between the developer and the county, I believe the county should look out for our interests as residents to make sure that our flooding problem is not furthered, because we are in a non-flood zone, but yet 3 houses have already flooded. And then finally, our concern deals with the green belt of the new proposed development. And when I say green belt, that's just perhaps my inexperience in the nomenclature that you guys would use, but my primary or our primary concern, again, is a separation between the proposed building and our residential areas in the form of green belt, specifically trees and shrubs that are tall enough to cover the back end of the building. And that would preserve our residential feel to the north on Ponce de Leon. Thank you very much for hearing me, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay. Nobody else is coming up. No.
Okay.
Mr.
Chair, I can't
Yes.
open up my
Okay.
landscape files here.
I can't
I don't have.
Yes, sir.
one. Yeah.
And actually, I apologize, that's why I'm so quiet, is I gotta hold my head at just the right angle to be able to see the text here, so. I need to buy more powerful reading glasses, I think.
I
Yes, sir,
don't,
go
I don't
ahead.
want to prolong y'all's evening, but if I may just address a couple of the things that were
Yes, sir,
said
yes,
by the public.
please do, please do.
So I just wanted to point, I know that drainage is outside the scope of this forum, but I just wanted to point out to the people who have concerns that a condition of us receiving a building permit, obviously, is that we don't discharge more water than prior to when we came. So we've got very, competent engineers who will work with the county engineers to make sure that the drainage solution we implement is effective. We spend a lot of money, obviously, solving for drainage issues, and we want it to work very well, too. With regard to traffic, there are a number of permissible uses within the existing land use, and I would say that ours is probably among the least intensive in terms of traffic generated. Many of our residents, no longer drive, so we generate a lot less traffic than other uses that, could be built by right on the property. And really, that's it. I just appreciate y'all letting me make those comments.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the landscaping is concerned, they were mentioning if there was landscaping that buffered between Legion Park and the Blake. Are you planning on, we can't open up our landscape piece here, so are you planning on putting some landscape there to buffer that area?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you
And
know what?
There is some on
That's-
another, on
Yeah,
the
I can-
civil plans.
I'm trying to open his.
So, and Tim, and I don't mean to speak over your shoulder, but just to address Tim. Earlier, when I was asking about the, I read a few, or made a few comments regarding the buffer zone. So the north buffer zone is the area that abuts the rear of a row of the houses on what I believe is called the Legion Park Loop. And it is 20 feet north to south. It has a relatively, as I'm reading this, it has a relatively light requirement for landscaping in terms of the intensity of trees. And is that requirement, that doesn't look like a scenic, a chapter 13 intensity of trees?
No, it falls back to 5. It's
Just 5, okay.
4 canopy trees, 3 understories, and 16 shrubs per 100 linear
100
feet.
And it's 110, it's indicating that it's 110 feet, although I have to admit, it looks like it might be longer on the plan here.
And I believe they're using some existing trees that are there. They're supplementing what's some gaps, but I think the majority of it is existing landscaping that's already in place.
And there's actually a tree survey included in the civil plans on page 3.
Okay.
Little tree, yes, that's what I'm.
And those, you plan to leave those trees in place?
Leave those trees and supplement it with more in areas that it's not as dense.
Okay.
So we can open the landscape plan, so what we're looking at is the civil, what's in the civil plans that applies to landscaping, is that just existing trees? Or is that also including trees you're adding?
I'm sorry?
I think it's just the existing, the trees they're adding is on the landscape plan.
Yeah, and we can't see our landscape plan.
It won't open.
It's not, there's not a
Uh,
PDF attached to
yep.
this.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hog this, but here's the landscape set.
I have a full-size landscape set.
Ooh, wow, that's what you're
That'd
gonna
be
look
great.
at. That's been hurting my eyeballs.
Yep.
I just have one other pretty significant question. I guess I need an explanation. The north buffer, according to one of the landscape sheets, is 110 feet long, but I gotta believe that the northern boundary of the site is a whole lot more than 110 feet.
Yes, but east of that is wetlands. The 110 feet is adjacent to the building. Everything west of that is the wetland, all the way to the property line.
East.
To, what did I say, west?
West.
I'm sorry, east. I meant to say east.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, here's the number that I need to see. Lee, what is this number say?
So what we're looking at on page 3
Okay.
of the civil.
But it's
Why-
it's only this.
Yes, that's the piece I was missing.
Yeah, and the rest of it
There's not
is,
a buffer
it's the existing.
along the parking lot. That is all,
Existing. Along here, it says that it's the existing landscape, which is this.
okay, understood. The only downside there is it looks like there was a little bit of fill being placed there. So is that, are we certain that that landscaping is going to be preserved?
It says remain undisturbed.
But there's grading lines
Where's
underneath
the
it that are
fill?
clearly,
This,
those straight lines? Yeah, you can't put 3 or 4 feet of fill around a tree and expect it to survive.
Any time that we have, fill going in an area of preserved trees, we put in tree wells and
Okay.
retaining walls.
All right. Yeah,
And our objective with trying to utilize some of the existing landscape was just to keep the,
oh,
the
that's, it's
view
always
that-
desirable. I mean, then you don't
Yeah.
have to irrigate it and all that stuff, and I mean, that's better for the landscaping. But what I want to be clear about is it appears on the civil sheets that there is some fill on the site, and
do you want this?
yeah, I guess I better look at the larger one. What I need is sheet C2 is the one
Oh, C2, we don't know.
that, okay. Oh, well, there's part of the answer. There's a retaining wall for a portion of it, so that makes a difference. Okay, so the buffer zone is outside of the area that's being filled. Yeah, these two plants together. Okay, and it goes from, looks like 11 feet to 14 feet, so 3 feet of fill. Okay, I'm satisfied that the 20-foot mature landscape buffer is being maintained. The fill is outside of that. But it definitely needs to be protected.
And is that, I'm not familiar with the site, is that landscape, existing landscaping in that buffer pretty, how much does it screen the view? I think that's probably what some of the nearby residents would want to know, if they're expressing concern about maintaining the residential nature.
Yeah, I don't know how to give you anything, I guess, other than a subjective answer. I can tell you that oftentimes when we're early in a project planning process, like we are here, this being really one of the first steps of our multiple hearings, oftentimes we'll submit what I would refer to as code minimum landscape plans, knowing that we meet and satisfy the code requirements, but our objective is for our community to be robustly landscaped. Similar to how the existing residents don't necessarily want to have a view of our building, we do everything, that we can to ensure that the view outside of our building for our residents who are looking out their windows is attractive as well. So neighbors may be pleased to find that as we construct, that the landscape that we ultimately install as we finalize that contract with whomever the landscape firm is, in every case in our experience, exceeds what's originally submitted.
Well, I'm going to just make, these are just friendly suggestions, but I would encourage the members of the neighborhood to the north to try to get one of these gentlemen's cards so that you have a person to communicate with. They've been very friendly to us at the last 2 meetings. So, and then the other thing I would suggest is for the gentleman that
Oh,
they are right there.
Yeah.
Great, that presented this is, Tim, can you get them one of the engineers and public works email address, Chance or someone, so that they can make sure this information gets into someone's hands who can address it?
Sure.
Okay.
But Purple Ridge is the one that reviewed it.
Oh, okay.
Well,
We're talking about the land outside the project.
Separate issue.
In other words, the
Drain.
individuals from the neighborhood who
Yeah.
said they had some concerns
Yeah, so
about the
they'll be
maintenance of the
able-
drainage, yeah, if you could get them an email address or a phone number, whoever the appropriate engineer at Public Works is.
That'd be great.
I just want them to leave feeling like they've been heard.
Sure.
Okay. All right. With all that said, are we getting to the point on the items that we are responsible for reviewing that we're comfortable making a motion? Anybody want to jump out there?
I'll make a motion to approve.
You have a second?
Second.
All right. Properly motioned and seconded. Do we have any other comments or questions? Mr. Applicant, any other comments or questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Staff or the members of the public? Okay, in that case, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, Andy.
Retail therapy?
What's that? Yes, thank you. Didn't want to forget that.
So this is, the applicant's not here, I don't believe, but this is what he provided. You guys wanted to see what was around it, so he provided these pictures.
I have no idea if they're sufficient or not, but that's what was provided to you.
Did we get the 911 thing yet? I thought we talked about that last time.
It's ready.
We do that, yes.
Oh, on the side. Okay, very good.
Yeah, yes, on the side, which we don't have many of those, but there are some out there.
So the sign itself is in compliance, but one of the things you guys wanted to know 2 months ago was how the sign related to the building. You wanted to see some surrounding pictures. Well, this is what he provided. Like I say, I don't believe the applicant is here.
All we wanted to see was a straight on of the building, I think.
And
Instead of the
I
sign
passed
being-
that along, I passed that information along, that you wanted to see all three buildings.
Right.
His building and the building on either side. I indicated that to him, that that's what you wanted. Back up where you could see all three buildings in that frame, but this is what they've provided.
So the buildings on either side are the Whataburger and the Burger King?
Apparently.
Yes.
What about there's sleep in and there's.
The sleep in is behind,
Yeah, it's,
behind what
yeah, it's behind Burger
So
King.
what's our concern? What's the customer here? What was our,
Well,
were we
it
trying to
was
harmonize the
deficient,
architecture
right,
that met the architecture?
right. Since he didn't provide, all he had was a close-up of his building, or maybe there was nothing. But my comment was, there was no information provided that we could determine whether it was architecturally supportive of the building. And he didn't have the 911 address at that time. Now he does.
I'm straining to go from memory here.
The
Well, it's
building
been
is
2
very-
months.
Is white, almost white, and there's,
I mean about the building.
Here we go.
Building looks like
The
it.
wonders of modern. So there's the
there we
building.
go, it's got a little blue on the.
Yeah, and his sign does now look,
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think we've answered that question. In my opinion, it's probably one of the most matching that's out there.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Okay, so are we ready to do this?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Any members of the public wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. Oh, we had a motion and a second, and
For retail therapy sign.
yes, and forgive me, Donna
I made the motion
Donna
and
made
you
the motion
seconded.
and Lee seconded.
Donna first, Lee second.
And then I checked to see if any members of the public wanted to speak, and there were none indicating they wish to speak. So we are now voting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. And since we all have so much energy, I do have a question for Tim. Mac has left the building. All right. Okay, I am where we left the lighting discussion was, I think I asked the question, could we just put the whole model, I forget the title of it, the dark sky code ordinance, into chapter 13. Is that something that the staff thinks has got any likelihood of succeeding?
Well, I think, and maybe this is just my opinion, but I think the county commission is pretty much going to go with whatever you all recommend, because you guys, this board adjudicates the scenic corridor regulations, so I can't see them, you'll never say never, but I don't see them rejecting something that you guys put forward.
Okay. It's a pretty substantial amount of information. What I'm realizing in the way the document is drafted right now, there is one very significant thing lacking. And that is decreasing the intensity of light that Chapter 5 allows.
Yeah.
And that's the single most.
Yeah, we had a big, at the time, we had a big study. I was here, and we spent a lot of time and effort. We worked with Chelco, we worked with Gulf Power to come up with these standards. That being said, I mean, 10 for residential and 15 for non-residential is extremely bright.
Yes. Okay.
And that's what's in 5 today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I know I have in the
measured
past
at the property line, so it depends on where the poles are, because light falls off at a very rapid rate. So right here, it may be 15, over there it may be 2. It falls at a very rapid rate.
It does, but the human eyeball has an amazing ability to adjust for that, and that's both good and bad.
Yes, yes.
We tend to make things that are bright seem less bright, and things that are dark, our eyeballs
brighten up.
Tend to brighten up, yeah. So, okay, well, I guess I'm a little nervous that that draft, that model ordinance as presented is probably a bit more progressive than I'm expecting is going to make it into the code. Yes.
Well, and of course, that's the flip side, is how much opposition is there going to be.
I think the first major project that goes through review under that code is going to, I think it'll end up being sent back to us.
Well,
so I'm trying to not to dumb it down, but I'm trying to come up with a.
It may never get approved.
Yeah.
In the first place, if anybody even knows that this is happening, we could get.
Yeah, and I didn't. When I said I can't see them rejecting it, you know,
when
there's the opposition, all bets are off.
Yeah. It's a pretty extreme jump from where we are now, and just reviewing that project, I didn't realize that till actually we presented with one with 25-foot candles up against the building. That is a lot of light.
That does seem like too much, especially for someone that's elderly.
Well, again, and on the other side of that, you know, my father's in an assisted living facility, and they don't have blackout curtains. They just have regular, blinds just like these. And 25-foot candles outside that blind, we would be going like this.
Yes, that's extremely bright.
Yeah. So, I guess we can keep continuing this, but I feel like at the very minimum, the way this is written now, that even another sentence of establishing maximum foot candles on the site, and there could be exceptions, again, there's already an exception for convenience stores if we need to have exceptions for loading docks and things that require a high level of light, and then maybe there'd be some requirement in the code that they be turned off at some reasonable hour. on a timer or something like that.
Well, and I think, can't you reference a document with it actually not being in? So you don't have to put all of that in the code, but you can
Yeah, I think the land development code also does that with like the International Property Maintenance Code. The whole thing is.
Waterwise, it references Waterwise. So
Okay.
you go out there and look at Waterwise, there's like more than 100 plants on there, maybe 150. So all that's allowable, but it's not all in the code. So you can do it that way. I mean, if there's certain sections you think are important, you can reference them without actually putting all that literally into the code.
Okay, well, like I said, I don't want us to sit on this for forever. So we need to send it back soon.
So,
But we are letting people know about like 14-foot tall poles, so most people are making that change. And, you know,
And so
just
far, most people have been pretty.
tonight we've got another.
Maybe we just come up with some really basic standards. Tim, maybe we need to have this meeting we keep talking about, and we come up with a paragraph's worth of lighting regulations that are more stringent than Chapter 5.
Yeah, because we've already got the lumens in there, so now we need to make the foot candle part of it.
Okay. All right, well, if y'all are comfortable with that, maybe we'll work on that. So I guess the other areas, do we have any other outstanding items in our workshop that we need to?
No, I think we finished signs and we finished some of the other housekeeping parts of it that, you know, just make, I think lighting is the last thing.
Okay. And exhibit.
And then lumens, or I'm sorry, the foot candle portion of the lighting is the last thing.
and if there are other, you know, aspects of that dark skies ordinance that we think would be helpful, I don't know enough about it. No.
Well, what it was really cool about it was this concept of a lighting budget. And so again, if an owner felt that they needed a lot of light in a particular area for some reason, they had that ability to do that. But, you know, it put some constraint on them not to overlight the rest of the site.
Cool.
So,
I like that.
yeah.
Which would
okay.
be helpful with something like we've looked at tonight, where they do need lighting for people to get in and out of the cars.
Which is a bit like what they're doing
Yeah.
with it really bright here, but at the property line it's zero, so it's a little like that.
Yeah.
So another question I have is, I guess we can, nothing's stopping us, but David, do you feel compelled, is there some value in us making a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for changes to Chapter 5 that could
Absolutely.
be incorporated in, they are reviewing, they're making changes to the Land Development Code right now?
Yes, right now.
So, do you happen to know if that's being addressed at all in Chapter 5 as part of these changes?
I don't.
It's
I've
more of an
been,
administrative cleanup, so I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, they should-
I haven't heard anything on lighting, but
So is there any reason we could, I mean, they may not take it.
no, there's absolutely no reason why you can't make that recommendation. I mean, they have to direct us, but you're right. I mean, we're working on Chapter 5, I think, now.
Yep.
But they have to direct staff to make those changes, or to look at it, or however they word it.
So is that something else that you and maybe you and Tim get together?
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
think about?
Yep. All right.
So what are we doing officially? Because it's an item on the agenda.
Well,
It sounds like we're continuing it officially.
Yep.
And you guys are gonna meet.
Yes, I will get with you before I walk out of here to schedule next week. You in next week?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, okay.
I'll make a motion to continue the workshop to our June meeting. Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Anybody have any further questions or comments? Any members of the public, staff? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any further business to come before us?
Yes.
An additional
We have
business.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we have Rudy, yes. Rudy.
Rudy's Barbecue would like to make a presentation to
I'm too
you.
hungry to hear about barbecue. These are not good citizens, these are mad barbecuers.
We should have brought some, it's dinner time.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be fantastic?
Don't say that now.
Samples.
Now I want barbecue.
Would you like to come back next month?
Thank you, sir.
Well, when you
Thank
come
you.
back, I'm not saying it would help your case, but.
We'll ship too, so I don't even have to come back, I can ship you something.
I'm assuming you're gonna come back to us for approval.
My name is Pete Bassett with Rudy's Barbecue out of Texas. We've recently put up some land just down the road across from Walmart under contract, and it was suggested that we talk to y'all preliminarily before we get too far along to see if it's going to be possible for us to use our trade dress and our branding that we use. So what I've included in here is the first 3 pages is what our exterior finish schedules currently are. This building is actually under construction in Gilbert, Arizona right now, and it has all the defined exterior finishes. And then the pictures, obviously we like red. The first picture is the most recent store we just opened a couple months ago in Texas. That's some new Braunfels. Obviously that pole sign's not going to fly. The second picture is just an interior shot of the queue line where customers run through. The third picture is another store that we had that shows a different treatment, that shows that we are flexible on our exterior treatments and what we are able to do and willing to do. The fourth picture also shows a different treatment with the metal on the front. And then we also utilize outdoor patio seating where possible in the environments that it's conducive. So before we got too far along, I just wanted to visit with y'all and get your thoughts and see if you think it's a possibility to do something similar.
One item that's obviously pretty consistent on your projects is the use of neon lighting. Jim, we've not had a history of even granting variances for.
No, the only ones I know of is in Seascape. They actually put in their master signage plan that the landlord could approve neon, and he did that with Acme Oyster House.
Yeah.
The code says no fluorescent, which we usually take as neon, no neon. They could request a deviation because our code doesn't allow it.
Oh, man, does our code not specifically say neon is prohibited?
Yes, I guess you can't get a deviation from something that's prohibited, yes.
But it does say neon, not just fluorescent.
It says fluorescent, it doesn't say neon.
So
Are those the same, really, like, could
We've
somebody,
equated them to being the same, but you can argue that they're not.
since we're making changes to the code right now for signage and lighting, can we specify?
Yeah, bring it up at the next workshop and I can make the
Yeah.
change in the ordinance.
Can everybody commit to helping us remember that? Yes.
And a lot of this lighting is now it's LED strip lighting, so it's not actually even neon. It appears to be neon. So there's different ways to skin a cat too.
Well, and they allow for, the code says for your main identification sign that it cannot be interiorly lit, but they allow for a reverse channel.
Mm-hmm.
The back
right
gives it a halo effect. They've ruled that that's not internally lit, that's externally lit.
Okay.
So you wouldn't really be able to do this, but
Right.
you could do reverse channel.
Reverse channel with
That's the first thing I
potentially.
thought when I saw y'all. What would this look like done in reverse channel? It'd be unique.
It would be, I think, better.
Right, and we actually have a reverse. You can't see it very well on this picture, but there's the sign on the side is reverse channel with the strip LED lighting inside. So while it looks like neon, it's not actually
And you
neon.
can do that with your wall sign
Right,
too. You can
exactly.
do reverse channel.
Exactly.
So in general, this is getting there. That's my opinion.
The wood one,
Yep.
natural wood
Right.
with
It's getting there
window trim.
with signage that's
in keeping with.
Metal is not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be covered with some sort of facade.
And then the field stone, we've had some discussion on some monument sides about that. I forget what I can't remember if it's uses the phrase native stone, but Florida has has some stones that are considered native. It was the, what's the apartment complex that is just actually.
Terramore?
Terramore.
What is that? Quartz?
I think it was it was a.
And we changed the code to allow quartz.
Yeah.
It didn't used to, but quartz is allowed now.
Right,
Yeah.
because it was something locally available.
But I think they got a deviation, I believe. Terramore?
Oh, because it was something we were going to, we were talking about
We
allowing.
added
Yeah.
But we did have some detailed discussion, as I recall, one that we did not approve, at least the way it was submitted, was there was a,
Hardee's.
Yes, Hardee's. That
It
was-
had too
yep.
much color, and the Hardee's had the stone, but it was a lot of color variation.
Right.
And so we asked them to change it to something that was a little more even in it, so
Right.
it wasn't so busy.
Well, we generally use it's a Hill Country Texas limestone, so it's pretty much all the same tone. As you can see on the new building, the first picture I showed you, the rock is much more consistent in color versus the one the wood facade.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't bring my code with me.
And
but
the other,
it's
just as a
pretty
minor
limited,
item, but
materials that are allowed.
Okay.
the vending ice machines under the canopy, I think, is another no-no in our code.
And the brisket and sausage and turkey and ribs and chicken sign too.
Right.
Is,
Well, the ice machine can be allowed under the outdoor merchandise permit.
you don't have it on this one as far as I can see, do you?
Right, no, there's not one on that one.
Yeah, they're looking at this.
Right.
As long as it's covered, that can be allowed.
Have you been here the whole meeting?
No, sir.
No, okay. We had, early in the meeting, there were some discussions about sizes of things.
Oh, the whole meeting, yes, we've been here the whole meeting.
Oh, tonight,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
So
thought so.
I would just review what size your badge is, as the gentleman referred to it earlier tonight, that says Rudy's, that you have on the side of your building.
Right. And so that was one question I had. So is that 3 feet is the max height of any building sign?
Unless
Okay.
it's over 15,000 square feet, then you can go to 5 feet.
We stopped building them that big.
That's a lot of barbecue.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, for a single
We're back down to about 8,000 square feet.
So 3 feet, 54 square feet total.
Okay.
But that ice machine would be allowed under the outdoor merchandise.
We don't want
But we would really not like it.
But he doesn't have it on this one, and that works.
Yeah, that would be great. And I would say just, I don't know if you're familiar at all with our code yet, but one of the really critical concepts in the code is that the intent is for signage, and I know this may be a little bit counterintuitive for business people, but the intent of the code is for signage and building color to not draw attention to the building.
Right.
And so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I've read through the code, so.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the red, do we have any red that's allowed other than on a sign copy? Sign copy?
Well, color doesn't apply to signs.
Right, but as far as the trim on the building and.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not, the red is
No.
permissible.
No.
It would be.
And that was one of their big issues, right?
Right.
Because that's their corporate color.
I get it.
But no, that's.
But the sign can have red on it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sign's not an issue, other than
You can achieve that.
no neon or fluorescent or whatever. But color-wise, the sign's fine. But building-wise, not so much, because none of the Munsell colors are too bright and none of them are too dark.
Yeah, we looked through the Munsell book today and tried to make heads or tails of what all those numbers
Well,
were, but.
It's a little difficult because not all of them are approved. Not
Right,
all those
right.
colors are approved.
So the chroma on the bottom, those colors aren't necessarily approved.
Not necessarily. I'll have to show you how to use the book.
Okay.
There are more colors than there were previously, but they stayed within the palette of not too bright, not too dark.
Are there
there any specific questions you have of us?
Really, the specifics were just our trade dress on our colors. We wouldn't want to deviate too far away. You know, if there's a different shade in the book that is approved, that's what we'd need to look at it and try to determine if that's going to work for us.
I doubt you'll be happy with what's in the book.
But your sign can have that color on it.
Right.
There's no problem.
Okay.
And you'll see up and down that
So
there's
I-
signs that are colorful.
Right, yeah, we've been looking up and
Colors
down.
aren't on the building.
We've been driving a lot, so.
I think he's wanting some feedback on how you would feel about a deviation for the red.
I would not be inclined.
And we've turned down people asking for red,
Well,
mattress places.
And Tom Thumb and Sefco went away from their
Right.
corporate colors because
Right.
they didn't think they could
Right.
get it approved.
Yeah.
What about the overall design?
You know, the scale of it and the sort of multiple building masses, the main gable-ended mass and the little sheds and things are good, that's compatible. Of course, the canopy or porch, whatever you want to call it, that's a nice element. I think that's good.
And interestingly, some of it is moving toward a coastal look. I would
Yeah.
say the whole thing looks super coastal, but we tend to prefer that. That's not a requirement of the code.
Yeah.
But clearly,
Right.
based on where we are, that's what we're going for. And there are some elements of that in some of these already.
Okay.
The metal roof is great.
Another item that doesn't really show up in the photographs and things like that, but we do take the landscaping pretty seriously, and
Yep.
we encourage you to. I'm trying to think, the lot that you're on, I don't think has a power line issue.
Are you across West Hewitt?
Yeah, we're right next to the donut hole.
So you're across 98?
Right, just, directly
I was
across from
trying to, I was
Walmart.
just trying to determine if you were in Topsail West or not. If you're across 98, you're not.
Right.
So you.
Yeah, on
you're-
that southeast corner, right next to the medical
So you're on
orthodontics
the
building.
east side of the
Right.
donut hole? Okay.
West
Yeah.
West of the donut
West
hole.
of the donut hole.
Going that way, whichever direction that is.
Isn't that
He's
O'Donnell?
between
Yeah, it's
the
west.
donut,
He's
you're between the
west of
donut hole and
O'Donnell.
the medical building. The
Right.
Between the-
Yeah, there's a little oncology place and then a blank lot and then the orthodontics building and
Okay,
then
so,
donut hole.
okay, so you're on the west side of O'Donnell.
Right.
Okay. So he's got 21st Century Oncology on one side, the O'Donnell building on the other.
All right.
Something quite a juxtaposition of architecture.
Yes,
It
it
is.
We need to let that bamboo keep growing on the O'Donnell building until you can't see it anymore.
Well, that's a pretty,
Pretty soon we'll be screening those
Yes, getting up
mechanical
there.
units.
that's a fairly wooded parcel currently,
It is.
so, I mean,
It is a little pine trees. It's already been cut over once when they originally were gonna develop it.
yeah,
That's
because
just-
something was there.
Right.
When we were
Volunteers.
inspecting,
Yeah.
when we were inspecting the O'Donnell building, we walked over there. You can see an old foundation. There used to be a building there that's no longer there. So, yeah, you're right. It's been cut down once.
It never got built.
All right.
Never got finished.
Is there a road that connects, or a path that connects where the O'Donnell building and the
There used to
oncology
be,
building?
there used to
It's
be on
not
the
there now.
original development.
Okay,
Well, and they've made their own now, so.
yeah.
Right.
But I don't think it's an official.
No, it's not.
Anything official.
The footpath kind of
Yeah.
stuff, which I think is
This'll go-
great. I think
yeah.
all of it should be interconnected. All of it.
Absolutely.
Well, there's another comment,
Yeah,
In other words-
interconnectivity is great.
Yeah, we love that.
And
That's
it will help you, yes.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we were driving through then, we couldn't get through the donut hole from the
Right.
orthodontics building, so.
Exactly. I had the same experience because I did a closing there and I had to go out on the 98 to
Right.
get over to Donut Hole and go out on the 98 to get back.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but
Crazy.
I didn't do that one. The person that did that did not require interconnection.
And what is the use of the property to the north? I'm sorry, to the south, Is that,
Behind it.
is that undevelopable?
It's undeveloped currently.
Yeah.
It's a little wet.
That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know if
Maybe
I don't know if that's state
That's
forest, but
part of
there is
the-
a trust that owns it, all
Yeah.
that behind,
Is that the
Marathon.
watch coming from? Is that one of the watch coming from? No, it's Topsail, that's Topsail,
No,
okay.
it's not, this is Topsail, yeah, it's not one of
That's part of the
those.
park, okay.
Is that,
okay.
yeah, I didn't realize, wait a minute, I'm confused.
It's probably state forest lands back
Yeah.
there.
I didn't realize that came around.
I think so.
Yeah, it gets pretty narrow. there.
That's one reason,
Oh, that's right, we're down
You'll be able to
past
smell the
30.
barbecue from the beach.
that's one reason they.
Yeah,
they-
we're not to 38, it's just before 38.
It's after, yeah, it's
Pick it
not,
up on your
I got
Yeah.
it.
That's-
Now I'm
Go ahead,
oriented.
yes,
Now I'm
exactly.
oriented.
That's one reason they called the PUD Topsail West, because of Topsail Park.
Yeah, okay.
I would just say subtlety, and if it helps, if it makes you feel any better, and you can come ask us for whatever you want to, but if you have more subtle colors on the building, it'll make that red signage pop.
Well, we have a local civil engineer we're working with too, so he can help us navigate, and he's done a lot of work in this area, so I'm sure he'll be very helpful on.
I think you could end up with something really, really neat,
Yeah.
if you kind of go. with
We're
some-
glad you're here.
What?
It's a pretty decent
He needs
location
lunch.
too, because that Walmart,
I am too.
that Walmart, they call it small marks, this is small.
It's too small.
It leads the whole southeast.
Anything else?
I think we are good. Mr. Pete, did you get what you needed from us?
I did, thank you very much, we appreciate your time.
Coming by.
Okay, unless anyone objects, we stand adjourned.
Shoes and everything.